Here we are again, aren't we? Approaching the end of another chaotic, the internet is quite literally on fire and so is the rest of the planet, string of tornadoes in the US during December, rioting in Australia as well as Europe, and pretty much on the brink of World War III. Man, the world is such a fun place, isn't it? Well, it's not all doom and gloom out there because it's almost Christmas, and seeing as these videos should be an escape from the absolute nonsense happening right now, and also that my wife is German, I figured what better way to celebrate to get everyone in the Christmas spirit than a German folktale, which, those are always good. And this one's about a pagan god that rather than showing up on Christmas to give gifts and reward those who have been good, he takes them to the underworld. Because hey, why not? So in today's episode, because we all saw the title of this video, we will be covering the lore and morphology of Krampus, the polar opposite of Santa or Satan if you're dyslexic. Now, a thing to note about this breakdown, much like how when I covered Pumpkinhead a little while back for Halloween and he was also supernatural, so too is Krampus, because again, pagan god. So as far as changing to human form, that would be a little bit more difficult and he really doesn't do it. But the reality is there's actually quite a bit of lore on Krampus, and morphologically speaking, he's a nightmare. So let's get to it. Oh, also just quick, I host game nights on my Discord, Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern time, link in the description. So we all know the general nonsense that I'm about to say. Up on screen, there will be a timestamp. I think the best way to do this is if you actually want to learn about Krampus's lore and the actual physical morphology, head there. Because if you ever get into a fist fight with Krampus, it's good to know what you're dealing with. And mainly because of this year that we've all had, Krampus is coming for us this time around. And he has access to all your internet search history. For all others, let's check out why your neighbor's child losing their Christmas spirit is an absolute liability for you as a person. I mean, holy God, is it really that easy to just get got? Well, if my father-in-law is anything to go off of, they always have the most wholesome stories, don't they? Something about meat cleavers being thrown at you, which we will talk about later. So, maybe I shouldn't really be dunking on Germans though, because we open up to the most violently American thing possible, Black Friday. Now, to the Euro bros out there, at least down here in the Southeast, like my neck of the woods, I have never seen Black Friday actually be horrible. There are long lines of people buying up stuff after Thanksgiving, but then again, I stopped going to that crap around 2007, so who knows, maybe it's gotten worse. But essentially for everybody who doesn't know, everything is marked down, supposedly. I mean, is it really though? Probably not. That remains to be seen. But basically, everyone is attacking one another over stuff, really getting into the Christmas spirit. So after the grab fest and some pretty good fistfights and tasing, we jump over to a play that appears to be happening at the mall. Not really sure why this is the case, but it just goes along anyways. We then see two parents run up to break up a fight on stage. We then see Ben from Parks and Rec, and it appears as though he's been working on a second family, and like two people in my audience will get that joke. But then he and the mom also head up there to break up the fight. Heading back home, we see Grandma knows what's up, making a ton of cookies and cakes for the family. As the rest of the family returns from the WWF SmackDown, because I know I'm older, I know it's WWE now, but it'll always be WWF. I don't care what the World Wildlife Federation says. As they talk, Max mentions how he's under the influence. He's hopped up on sugar and didn't know what he was doing. Honestly checks out. Now we get to my favorite part of the movie. So I watched this with my wife, who knows German, so even with the subtitles, I would lean over and ask what she was saying, despite literally being there what she was saying. Why? Because if you aren't annoying your life, then what are you really doing with your life? Tom flips on the news. It's standard war, doom and gloom nonsense, like the opener of this video. I mean, man, Krampus really is about to come strike my house. Max talks about how he got into a fight because the kid was saying Santa wasn't real, so he threw hands literally on sight with this kid. What a Chad. We now get info that the cousins are coming over. Never a good sign. Grandma then asks if Max has finished up his letter to Santa, which he hasn't. The mom puts up their Christmas photo, realizes the mall Santa is checking out his daughter. Gross. Grandma goes on a short monologue about how the Christmas spirit is the spirit of sacrifice. Basically, everything is looking pretty, not Christmassy. Later that night, as the house literally shakes as Tom pours a fair amount of bourbon into his drink, like massively relatable, we get a scene that happens at my house. Replace brother-in-law with just brother, he shows up in a giant vehicle that again shakes the house. Stuff immediately starts dropping, and then there's a nice shift in the atmosphere. Family. Hopefully, he doesn't watch these. We see at this point that Sarah isn't too happy about Aunt Dorothy showing up, to which I have to say I've watched this a few times. I mean, Aunt Dorothy isn't really the best in the world, but hey, she could be a lot worse. So let me give you like the general vibe here. It's Christmas with your extended family. You already know. As dinner commences, Howard begins bashing Tom for being an Eagle Scout, #relatable, and pretty much for anything he does. Howard, on the other hand, has force multiplications at his disposal, so obviously he's a better survivor. On a scenario by scenario basis, perhaps when dealing with animals, but pure survival, it's important to be well versed in a broad spectrum of survival techniques. The mom isn't faring any better on the other side of the table. Everyone is bashing her food. I swear at this point, fights would be breaking out in my family, as they frequently did. This is also the lore of Roanoke's family too. Something about the holidays just brings out the worst in people, am I right? At this point, Max realizes that his cousins have stolen his letter to Santa. Now Max is asking for some pretty big things this year, for his parents to fall back in love, for Uncle Howard and Aunt Linda to not be having such a tough time financially, and for his uncle to not push his daughters so hard to be boys, which then sets them off. As the mom comes in with creme brulee, day, a fight breaks out to get the letter back. Also, his sister was like grabbing his arm, telling him not to the whole time. Like, why? Just let him leap across the table. Who cares? It's family, right? Also, why didn't Howard put a stop to any of this with his kids reading? I'm pretty sure mine would have smacked me upside the head. Such is life. But because nobody put a stop to it, the ensuing doom of all of them commences. Great parenting. Max's Christmas spirit at this point has officially been broken. And all I'm saying is that kid from Polar Express got to ride a train, whereas Max gets a goat demon. Is there some favoritism here? Who knows? Anyways, Tom goes up to talk to his son, and Max is straight up spitting facts about why do they have to keep doing this every year it gets worse. So let me hit you guys with some facts. Family is important. A lot of times they're there for you when nobody else is. Family can also be incredibly toxic and have their own problems. If it gets to a point where you can no longer feasibly deal with them, why ruin your holidays with them around? I mean, really, there's absolutely nothing wrong with cutting out toxicity in your life until their attitude changes and they prove that they can be welcomed back into the fold. Something to remember as you head out into the world, or maybe you're already there. Spend holidays with the people who make you feel loved and that you love. It'll make your holidays way better. Anyhow, his dad responds with, because it gives them perspective on how to deal with people with different views. Max asks, does he really believe that? And Tom answers, I wish. As Max goes to send his letter, he says, nah, screw it, tears it up, and then yeets it out the window. I would have probably just gone to the trash with it, but then again, I'm paranoid about a 10-foot tall pagan god stalking my house. So after he does this, a completely normal and common weather pattern takes place, as this was the final push needed to bring Krampus onto American soil to begin the Shrekkening. As the storm rolls in, the power is cut and everyone is left in the dark. The next day, Max looks out to see a snowman in the yard. Nobody's really sure who built it there, more so with this craptacular weather. As they're discussing what's going on, they get a knock on the door and it's the DHL guy delivering. That's gotta be the most unrealistic part of this movie. Anyways, he's dropping off a package as Linda signs for it and she sees another bag at the front door from someone else. They have no idea who left it, so they decide to bring the strange package inside. I would say that's not what a normal person would do, but considering all the stuff Erica orders, I probably just bring in strange packages at this point as well. All this, however, makes Beth a little alarmed. She's texted the love of her life several times and he still hasn't answered. She wants to go check on him to make sure that he's okay. Sarah disagrees, but Tom says it's okay. It's just a small blizzard with whiteout conditions, high wind chill, and the ability to get frostbite within minutes. Way to go, Dad. So Beth sets out to go check on her boyfriend a few blocks away. So as Beth sets out on her pathway walking through the winter terrorland, the area around her starts getting immediately darker. Nobody is out there and the houses actually look fairly abandoned. As she looks around, she sees a giant thing on the roof near her as it begins running from rooftop to rooftop. She finds the DHL truck in its natural habitat, sitting there not doing anything, so she checks inside to see that the dude is completely frozen. Okay, so here's the thing. Krampus takes everyone from everywhere, and in order for him to do that, he is shown to have broken in windows or sent his helpers to do so. Why is this dude frozen in his truck with no apparent damage to his truck? I didn't really understand this part unless it's just spooky happenings, joy abound. But Beth has this really dumb idea. Despite this thing hunting her like a predator, she decides to crawl under the truck. Yeah, that's not gonna end well. Krampus lands near the truck and begins pacing around it. He knows that you're there, but you have sort of like cornered yourself, so it's not like he has to worry about it. I mean, honestly, she had a few blocks to go, like run, Forrest, run. But she doesn't, and Krampus drops her off a little gift before yeeting away. We get her yells and the truck moving, which signifies whatever came out of that jack-in-the-box is totally normal and definitely not nightmare fuel. At this point, more snowmen begin showing up in the yard. As they look out at the storm, Sarah remarks how Beth should have been home by now. Tom says everything is okay, but Max reminds them that it's going to be dark soon. This would imply that she's been gone the whole day when she was supposed to be back in like an hour. Again, great parenting. Tom goes to Howard and says that we need to go pick her up and take a look around town to see what's going on, to which Howard is definitely up for a recon mission. I gotta say, I'd be too at this point. I mean, how they've been sitting inside this whole time, it's just beyond me. Then again, I would definitely get got by a jack-in-the-box because I would be walking around outside after my neighbor doomed us all. All right, so remember how I was asking my wife as a joke about what grandma was saying? Well, notice in a certain point, there are no subtitles when the grandma goes up to Tom. Now, I don't know 100% if she was completely paying attention, but she told me she's actually saying this is how your father went missing, but Max relays as it's too dangerous. It's interesting how they added that to the movie because, you know, they removed the subtitles at that particular point. Anybody who speaks German, correct me if I'm wrong, but that means Krampus stays stalking grandma this time of year, which we will figure out as to why this is the case later. Tom and Howard set off in Lucinda, the compensator, to go pick up Beth. As they drive along, there's absolutely no radio stations, nor are there any visible lights to be seen anywhere. That's some storm, but I also kind of think there's a different thing about this. Continuing down the road, they end up running into what appears to be a dump truck likely to salt the roads. As they go to inspect, they see the truck has had its windshield broken inwards. See, people did get got, so why was the DHL guy left? Very strange. At this point, Howard heads over and gets the handheld and force multiplier to start stacking elf bodies. Tom asks why did he pack this, and I have to say, hey, why not? Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, in my opinion. Back at the house, as Sarah and Linda talk about how she's saved saved all the Christmas stuff, they begin hearing something up on the roof. Sarah says it's probably just squirrels, and Dorothy says, yeah, they're probably just playing with their nuts. As they continue to hear something scurry around, eventually the whole house shakes rather hard, sending the baby crying. Grandma looks up the fireplace and then keeps the fire going. Howard and Tom have now arrived at the boyfriend's house looking for Beth. They find a Christmas cookie stabbed on the fridge, although the entire house has a ton of snow in it, which should be mildly concerning, and the fireplace is broken outwards. In the snow on the ground, hoof prints can be seen, and Howard says that they are huge and they must belong to an elk, to which Tom says what kind of elk stands upright. As they inspect, Tom hears Beth screaming and runs outside in order to find her. As they do though, Howard gets grabbed by something under the snow and bitten. Tom is able to pull out the force multiplier and send it crawling away. So whatever it is, it can be injured. Getting back to Lucinda, they find that she has been absolutely destroyed. They're able to run back to the house, and then Howard keeps spouting off a bunch of nonsense, but Tom tells him not here. He needs to keep his cool. Everyone at this point begins panicking a bit, as you might imagine. As Tom stands up and tells his mom to go to the kitchen, she remarks he needs to keep the fire hot. In the kitchen, Grandma picks up a meat cleaver, which this part always kind of makes me laugh because now it's story time. Now technically it's not my story to tell, but as I've stated, my father-in-law is German and his parents were both like old school German. Anyways, he came home late one night after sneaking out with one of his friends, and his mom quite literally threw a meat cleaver at him when he walked inside. So every time I see this, it makes me laugh. I mean, I'm glad, she didn't hit her mark, but is that like a common thing to do over in Europe? I mean, that's pretty metal. Anyways, as Howard's leg is getting inspected, they see that he's bleeding pretty good. Something has bit him deep. Sarah asks where's Beth and that they need to find her now. Howard mentions how frostbite is setting in within minutes, so that's kind of strange, but they decide to board up the windows and attempt to hold it down for the time being, despite Beth's disappearance. Howard now tells Tom thanks for saving him and he's sorry he always thought he was spineless. Great apology, man. That night, everyone hunkers down. Howard suggests that someone needs to keep watch for the night, which flash forward, good lord, Howard has fallen asleep. So now they're completely out in the open, but what's worse is the fire was allowed to die out because of this. And the Christmas critters are just on the roof, so now they're able to start their plan. Dropping down a hook with a cookie attached, they start fishing for kids. Howie, the kid who appears to have basically just two brain cells to rub together, gets up, not finding anything sus about this at all. Well, that'll be his downfall, because as he takes a bite of the freaking cookie, it's alive, and it begins wrapping chains around him. He begins to get dragged upwards as Sarah runs to grab his legs. As the rest of the group grabs onto her legs, the log is kicked out and then begins burning down the Christmas tree, which that thing goes up like the 4th of July. The Christmas cookie then scares Sarah as she accidentally lets go, and Howie is taken. At this point, Grandma finally spills the spaghetti out of her pocket and tells everyone what's going on. And I've used that joke like 4 times now, it just never gets old. So here's the synopsis of her story. Town was experiencing bad times because, Germany back in the day. So she lost her Christmas spirit along with the rest of the town, and she made a wish that Christmas would just kind of go away. Because of this, Krampus would ultimately show up instead of St. Nicholas. He basically took the whole town but left her alive to tell the tale. So Krampus probably really is stalking her. Somehow she survived and is here now. Well, not really somehow, he just let her live. But he did leave her a pretty fashionable bell. Howard is now saying, screw this. He's going to get Howie back, which I can't say I wouldn't make the same call. As he goes to exit, he pulls the pump action on Tom, who tries to stop him, and then goes outside. Of course, he immediately sees the eyes and what's waiting for him past the light and decides, never mind, and goes back inside. He also sees a snowman with Howie's clothes. So the snowmen outside are basically the people who have already been taken. It is now December 24th. As they question the grandma and they ask her, can they make Krampus go away? She basically says they're fudged. Only she didn't say fudge. Anyways, Linda is having a bit of a meltdown resetting the presents. Finding some in the attic, there's some that are making noise and slightly moving, but before she can open it, she's stopped by Sarah. A plan is now hatched. Send Tom out there to get the other truck and then try to get to town. While this is going on, the cousins then head upstairs to use the bathroom. As they do, they hear Beth's voice in the attic. Well, what they think is Beth's voice. I gotta tell you, that would be a complete no for me, dog. Anybody goes missing and then you start hearing their voice from inside of the house? Nope. As the adults head upstairs, Howard hears something in the kitchen. Getting upstairs, good sweet lord, it's like Jack in the Box hooked up with like Slurms McKenzie. Realizing the presents have also been broken out of, it's not looking good up there. As Howard checks the kitchen, we see something moving in the gingerbread house, which brings up the question, is a gingerbread man in a gingerbread house mean that the gingerbread man is made of house, or is the gingerbread house made of gingerbread flesh? He screams, for he does not know. As each of the respective groups check out what is happening, we see the Jack in the Box, and it straight up eats a child whole. Like, oh my god, it's terrifying. They then take aim, but completely miss. That thing doesn't seem very fast. Meanwhile, Howard engages in combat with the Christmas cookies, who have a nail thrower. In the attic, things go from bad to worse. The other helpers arrive, being a cherub, bird thing, and a teddy bear with massive teeth. Howard is able to take out the cookies as they get a little burnt in the process, and before the other one can stab him in the face, man's best friend arrives and puts an end to the cookie attack. So upstairs, a robot now begins to attack on Tom and starts stabbing stabbing him in the back as the cherub literally tries to hang Sarah. Linda puts an icicle through the bear's eye that was attacking her, cuts Sarah loose, and then knocks the robot off Tom's back before going for the jack-in-the-box, missing it with the axe. They find that Stevie has survived as Sarah then takes out the robot for good. As the creepy slug toy moves through the air ducts, they let the dog loose into the vents. It sounds like it may be winning, but how are you supposed to really take this thing out? Eventually, it does crash through the roof, freaking everyone out. The cherub begins to attack, along with the bear at this point as well. Aunt Dorothy domes it, Clay pigeons the cherub, but before she's able to take out the jack-in-the-box, it starts clapping. The grandma says elves, as creatures run in, chain up Aunt Dorothy, and then grab the baby, as well as the jack-in-the-box. Howard goes after the jack and then gets pulled out. The elves also destroy the fire, so that's not good, and this leaves everyone in the cold and dark. The grandma attempts to keep the fire going, but it's too late. Papa Krampus is here. They all get dressed quickly and gather at the front door. However, the grandma isn't coming. She elects to stay back and confront Krampus. The remaining family members head out to try to get to the truck. So Krampus finally arrives, heading down the chimney. That's pretty horrifying. It's clear Krampus remembers her, but it means very little that he left her alive originally. Also, he does this weird tongue thing. Gross. He opens his bag and then she's attacked by Christmas critters. Outside, the group struggles to make it to the dump truck. Tom sends everyone ahead and lets fly the slugs of war. Now, here's the thing. How many freaking shells does this thing have? He hugs everyone goodbye because he knows that this is probably a one-way trip. Eventually, he is grabbed and then taken into the snow. The group continues on, with Linda being grabbed and dragged away next. As Sarah puts the kids in the cab of the truck, she gets pulled down too. Then as Max tries to start the truck, oh yeah, that starter sounds weak AF. The elves show up, to which Max smacks one after Stevie gets pulled out of the cab of the truck and then gets grabbed and dragged away by the jack-in-the-box. As he exits the truck, he's immediately met with Krampus. Krampus extends his hand and then drops a shredded letter. He leaves Max with a reminder to always keep the Christmas spirit, or he will be back, much like in Grandma's case. Max looks up and Krampus is gone. But rather than just say screw it and go find somewhere else to live, he decides to confront Krampus. Moving through the snow, he ends up finding their operating location. Max says that he takes his wish back and he wants his family, and then throws the bell at Krampus. This ends up opening a portal to the underworld, which that's not good. Krampus then jumps up on the ridge and Stevie is brought to the edge. Max apologizes to Krampus and offers himself instead, which at first looks like, hey, it's all good, but it's actually not. Krampus starts laughing at him and Stevie is thrown in. Max is now grabbed and tossed in as well, as Krampus is a straight Chad and he just doesn't care. If you don't have the Christmas spirit, you're gonna get wrecked. The next morning, Max wakes up yelling, realizing that it was all a dream. He looks outside to see it's Christmas morning and everything is all good. Going downstairs, he sees the rest of his family who are enjoying one another's company. As he sits down and opens gifts, it's Krampus's bell. At this point, the rest of the family starts appearing to have remembered what happened because they all had the same nightmare. They then realize that definitely was not a dream. As the camera zooms out, in actual German fairy tale fashion, it's just super dark. They are all trapped in a snow globe for eternity with one another in the underworld. I mean, that totally blows. Like, is this like a portal sort of deal? Or are you actually like stuck in the snow globe? Who's to know? But then all the Christmas creatures jump up at the camera and ooh, it was spooky. So there are several things to know about Krampus, the most important being it's a pagan tale made up by Central Europeans. And if the tale of a mother telling her child not to suck on their thumbs, to which then the mother cuts off the child's thumbs, is to be believed, then fairy tales in Germany and Austria are just straight up horrifying. But anyhow, I'm gonna level with you. This is more of a lore-based video, so actually I wanna hear what y'all think. Typically, I do cover actual science in movies, but let's be real here, this thing is clearly supernatural. That said, take something like The Ritual or that movie coming out, Antlers, and I really wouldn't mind covering supernatural creatures lore and morphology, but the trade-off is, obviously, it's not going to be backed with more corporeal ideologies. Anyways, let me know what you guys think and if you enjoy this. So I believe the first place we should start with is, what is a Krampus? Krampus actually hails from a very old set of ideas of punishing the wicked and rewarding the good. During more paganistic times, parents would warn their children, even before Christianity spread to the area, of something lurking beyond their campfires and villages during the winter solstice. It would punish children who were bad. But with the spread of Christianity, the duality would begin to arise with Krampus. Despite the Catholic Church essentially wanting to do away with Krampus, old habits die hard in humanity. The tale of Krampus would continue to persevere until it became associated with a specific time, December 6th. December 6th is known as St. Nicholas Day, and the night before is officially known as Krampusnacht, or Krampus Night. And also, I'm American, so that probably isn't the way it sounds. But which, by the way, if you wonder why his name is Krampus, it's because it comes from the word Krampen, meaning claw. Pretty sure I didn't pronounce that right either. Anyhow, both Krampus and St. Nicholas would descend upon towns all over. St. Nicholas would reward children who were well behaved, leaving them gifts, and they would wake up to find. St. Nicholas was obviously a saint, having his roots in Christianity. Krampus, however, was there to take and punish the bad children. Running amok in town, he would use birch switches to smack kids into being better. If you were a child and you were exceptionally bad, he would just straight up grab you and take you to the underworld or force you to walk eternity with him, thus the chains of Krampus, which are heard and seen throughout the movie. On December 6th, the actual St. Nicholas Day, once the night was done, you would either wake up and be rewarded, or you would need to nurse your wounds. This is literally the story. So you ever get the feeling kids' songs and fairy tales are just incredibly messed up, like London Bridge is Falling Down is about a bridge collapse, Ring Around the Rosie is about bubonic plague, or even It's Raining, It's Pouring, the old man is snoring, he bumped his head and went to bed and couldn't get up in the morning, is about getting a concussion and expiring in your sleep because of this. Way off topic, but these fairy tales are wilding out. Anyways, it's believed that Krampus is also the son of Hel, or the Norse god of the underworld, meaning that likely the children he takes really do end up in the underworld, just like we saw within the movie. So then the question becomes, what exactly is Krampus? Well, there are many depictions, so it really depends on where you're getting your source material. Now, here's where I start calling him Krampus because I remember that's what I'm supposed to be calling him. The original version of Krampus is likely more in line with what it's supposed to be, being a partial goat demon. It walks upright on its back hoof with one human foot. It is covered head to toe, or really head to hoof, in hair, carrying chains and a basket in order to capture bad children while chasing down other kids in order to beat them. The reality is, the original version of Krampus is actually no larger than a standard Homo sapiens. The goat demon would have the same setup as a human as well, concerning torso and arms with fingers and thumbs. However, the face of the original Krampus is not as twisted as the movie Krampus. The face is definitely more demonic looking, with sharper features, long pointed ears, and horns. However, what is known is that Krampus does have a very long tongue, which is seen both in the lore and in the movie, which is interesting as they did stay true to the depiction of this creature. Krampus is also shown to have a long tail in drawings of him, something we don't necessarily see in the movie. Krampus in the movie also is much more massive than anything shown in the drawing. The fact that he was hunched over and still towering over humans means that probably from about the top of his horns, he's likely around 7 feet tall. However, if he were to stand fully upright, something he may or may not be able to do, he could easily crest 12 to 14 feet. Maybe the reason he ducks down is really to move within homes, as he can't remain fully upright. So in non-freedom units, that would be about 2.13 to almost 4 meters tall. Krampus is also probably very heavy. He doesn't really fall through roofs, but I mean, take this with a grain of salt, because as you've seen, when the house shakes, it's not just for any reason. It's literally Krampus landing on the roof. They had the fire going, however, so he was not able to enter through the chimney. But judging by his overall size, even if emaciated, at the height he is, it's entirely possible he can weigh upwards of 700 to even 800 pounds. If we were to use comparable animals, however, those animals I have in mind are bears, which seems to be the theme lately, but this requires Krampus under the robe to fill the area and not be emaciated. And if he did weigh this much, it surely would shake the house when landing on it. Anything too much less than that, and it would be loud, but not cause a shock to the structure like what we saw. This indicates to me that under that robe, Krampus is girthy. Continuing with Krampus for the movie, we see something much more horrifying. Starting with his hooves, we see this creature is in fact massive. Now, he does have 2 hooves instead of 1 hoof and 1 foot, and it does at least somewhat hold true to the goat origins of standing upright. The hooves are massive, as again, Howard remarks that they probably belong to an elk to have hooves that large. We don't see too much of his body, unfortunately, so it's difficult to tell exactly what are under the robes, although now that I say that out loud, maybe that's not such a bad thing. But with that said, this creature, while standing upright, almost appears to not naturally stand this way. The hunched over appearance indicates that, let's say Krampus did come from something else, then it would be that they only recently started standing up in its evolutionary history. But again, it is a folktale, but why not have fun with it based on what we see? Also, this is pretty unsurprising considering the rest of its morphology. However, what is most interesting about Krampus is, again, he's shown to be a goat demon hybrid. In the movie, it appears to be something more like a satyr. It's a class of lustful, drunken woodland gods, essentially having goat ears, tails, legs, and horns, but still having a fairly human torso, whereas the original version did have a human torso but still had a ton of hair. Continuing on with the torso, it's hard to tell what's underneath, but the rounded back and hunched posturing does show that potentially it could still move on all fours, and upright may not be the native stance. The arms are massive, about 2/3 the size of an adult human, at least concerning length. This lends to the idea that it could possibly be using its arms to move in a quadrupedal ability, seeing as they are so long. Moving to the hands is where we get that real creepy morphology start to really kind of rear its head. Having massively long fingers, they crack and groan whenever opened and closed. On each finger and thumb that are just ridiculously spindly looking, the nails are several inches in length, appearing to be more related to that of an animal than really some half-goat human beast. Again, much like a predator more than a herbivore. Then getting to the most screwed portion of Krampus, the real nightmare fuel, it's the face. It's gotta be the face. The appearance is very human, in fact having the same teeth as humans as well. The jaw is slack and constantly hangs open, in fact almost to the point of just appearing like a mask, although why would it wear a mask? It's not like it needs to hide or anything. The face is twisted with lines running all over. The eyes are sunken into the skull and appear almost milky white, which suggests blindness, but you guessed it, it's supernatural. I mean, the reality is Krampus is just a bastardization version of Santa based on Santa drawings and what we have assumed to be. Krampus also sports a beard that's fairly long and has a massive tongue. It is hypothesized that the reasoning for his tongue is used to wrap around bad children to help catch them. And if that isn't the just bad version of life, having now known this, I don't know what is. He also comes equipped with his own helpers and versions of toys, much like Santa would. Take everything Santa is and just reverse it. While the toys of Santa will bring you joy, the toys of Krampus will bring you misery. While Santa is there to reward, Krampus is there to take. Both Santa and Krampus have elves, although based on what we've seen, the elves of Krampus are massively sadistic. They seem to actually enjoy the sense of loss they bring on others and openly mock any human that gets near them. Now, one of the things I did wonder throughout this movie is what happens if you're like a family who's super stoked for Christmas and having a great time, and then your neighbors have like a boo-hoo fest. Do you get got by Krampus, or are you in a pocket dimension while he attacks? I actually think there are a few clues in the movie that seem to suggest you're actually within your own pocket dimension. For instance, when Howard and Tom go out in the truck and are looking for any radio signals, they can't get anything. Now, you could say it's a magical barrier, but I kind of doubt that. I also doubt that many people on the street would have gotten got that quickly without anybody noticing. But I'm guessing while Krampus can attack the whole town during good times, some people are probably still left out of his wrath. We only see a few snowmen pop up in the yard, which if that's an indicator of who's been captured, their whole street does not appear to have gotten got. To me, this indicates that after Max made his wish, they are probably immediately isolated, seeing a hellish version of their neighborhood, while like the other people who were nearby, they had been spared as they never entered this pocket dimension. So this leads me to believe that from the drop, this family was already trapped. They just didn't know it yet, meaning their entire resistance from the drop was futile, which, I mean, that kind of sucks. And also anybody who happened to be driving through that area at the same time also is completely screwed. But hey, that's just a theory, a Roanoke expository theory. So, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, everyone. I want to hear what you guys think of this type of video. I know it's a little detraction from what I normally do, but point me in the direction of a biological Christmas movie and that'll be a next time sort of deal. Like with that one movie, like with Jack Frost or whatever, where the guy's like melted down into slush, and then he can control snow and then he just goes on and attacks everybody. Actually, you know what? Next time I'll have to do that.